Swagat, Nasser.
Pleasure to be here. I think sport is a very, very strong element. It's a universal language. Uh, so any country, anywhere that you are, you can relate to sport, regardless of what sort of background or language or culture you come from. The one thing that is the same is sport. Uh, Also, the what's fantastic about sport is it breaks down barriers. So you don't, regardless of where you come from, what your background is, or what sort of segment of society you're in, or gender for that matter, you would be treated the same on a sporting field. So it's a level playing field, uh, and that's, I think, fantastic. And the very few things in this world that would unite everyone. And I think sport kind of does that. So yeah, so women's rugby started only in 2009. So if you think about it, it's only been about 11, 12 years at the most, in terms of women being involved in rugby in India. Uh, I still remember that before this happened, the board sort of sat down and someone mentioned about women's rugby, and uh, everyone was a bit sort of apprehensive, and weren't sure because even men's rugby is not a very popular sport. We only have limited participation, at least back then. But what we said was let's give the girls a chance, give them, and we organized an exhibition game that was held during our men's tournament, and I think everyone was really surprised and pleasantly surprised, I would say, by the way the girls played the sport passionately and the enthusiasm and excitement that we saw amongst these young girls playing it. And I think that was uh, the, the tipping point or the changing moment for Rugby India, where we said that it's not just the men's game, and the women should get a shot at it as well. And I think since then, every single activity, event, tournament that we host is gender inclusive, and the men and women are treated, or the boys and girls are treated exactly the same, given the same facilities, and our focus is more to try and get the girls uh, extra opportunity to play. And to be fair, they've proved themselves and they've done exceptionally well, both domestically in the national competitions as well as internationally. So in terms of players registered, I think girls, we've got about 40%, so about 18,000 odd players that would be playing registered. But through the Get Into Rugby program, which is a mass participation program, there'd be a lot more, because we reach out to younger groups, and we almost have close to about 50% participation. So close to about 80, 90,000 girls would be exposed to the game at least. No, it's a valid point that you bring out, and I think what's unique to rugby is the strong value system that it has, and what we've seen over a period of time is how the sport has helped build confidence. Obviously, made the girls much more stronger and more determined. So, in case there are any sort of situations they're put into, they deal with it in a more mature way, in a more confident way. And I think it's also given them a chance to realize the strength that they have, uh, not just physically but also mentally, uh, and how they use that in their day-to-day lives. And I mean, we must realize that a lot of the girls uh, that come into playing rugby come from very simple, humble, uh, rural backgrounds. Yeah. So they don't have that much uh, that a normal sort of city kid or a urban kid would have. So they have a lot more challenges to deal with, and I think rugby kind of addresses that in a way. Most definitely. I mean, it's without a doubt uh, helping or being a catalyst for social transformation. And we've seen that in terms of case studies with few of the girls, where typically in a small sort of society or a village, uh, the decision makers are men and would be the older men, and who are typically the wise men uh, in that environment. And what we've seen is, because of the exposure and the experience that these young girls have had, they have been invited into these sort of gatherings to share what they've learned and what they've seen in the outside world. And that's, I think, quite transformational from when you look at it from that sort of breaking the traditional mindset. So a lot of the girls that are involved in the sport come from very small towns and villages. And a few of the girls are from a small state in India called Orissa. And they come from a village that's uh, like their homes, some of them don't have electricity, and they still us that sort of behind in terms of technology and advancement. Uh, so this is something that was shared by them, and so from their village, nobody from their village has been to the closest city in India, and a few of these girls have gone on and played rugby and represented India internationally. So they've been to tournaments in Hong Kong and Paris and things like that. And so they're the first from the village to have not just gone to the closest city, but have gone outside of India and flown on a plane. So when they go back, they're the ones who've been asked to share the sort of experiences of flying on a plane and meeting people from different countries and experiencing different cultures. And I think that's phenomenal in terms of uh, the the sort of confidence levels of these girls going up, because otherwise they would not be uh, brought to or given that sort of a stage to talk about their experiences and their sort of exposure that they've had. So yeah, so it's so normally how it is. It's there's a small little gathering that happens where the elders of the village are the ones who sit around and discuss matters pertaining to the village or uh, current affairs, and the rest of the village would sit around and listen in. And like I said, it's always been only men. And this was for the first time a young girl was invited, and she was sharing the same stage, so to say, with these elderly, wise men of the village. And she was the one talking. Uh, and I remember she has a rugby ball in her hand, and she says, uh, "This is only possible because of rugby and this ball, and I'm very grateful." And I think that is a turning point for that village, and we've seen a lot more uh, change in their way they look at women and the sort of support extended to them. The object is not something that's uh, it's not a material thing for me. Uh, what sort of motivates and drives me uh, are the smiles that you see amongst the young kids and the players and the participants who share and enjoy the sport and the activity. And I think that is what keeps me going, and I hope the rest of my team going as well. That the smiles we can put on the faces of the players, uh, and with the hope that they would continue playing and they would be the ones carrying forward that to the next group of players. So, in terms of the quote, something that has stuck with me has been, "If you can dream it, you can do it." And it's a quote by Walt Disney. So it's something that I think really sort of triggers in terms of everything. Like if you can dream something, you can definitely work towards and do it. And it's great that it's from Walt Disney, so it has a comic element to it as well. So it kind of keeps it light-hearted as well.
One rugby.
One love.